Blam, 64k. Oh, I love this. I actually love this. The short answer to should you build a DPS Lan Yan is, in my opinion, yes. The reason I am confidently stating that is because I think there's compelling reason to do a normal VV build on Lan Yan, but then just put some crit stats on her, because this character can actually get pretty significant front-loaded damage. Although I will say there's a significant asterisk in that it's a lot less worth doing this if you don't have C1. And this is why I wish for C1. And this is why I'm actually making this video for the second time. Because I initially made a video where I just experimented around with like trying to on-field Lan Yan and get like more normal attack damage out of her. But in doing that, I ended up learning how Lan Yan's skill actually works. And basically, right, if you read Lan Yan's kit, you see it says her Featherman Ring does 154% of her attack as animo damage, and then she has a passive that does 50%, so that'd be basically half this scaling, as whatever element that was on the enemy that she absorbed. So for example, if you have Pyro on an enemy, she'll have a hit of Pyro as well. And this reads to me like, oh, her skill just hits once, right? Like, she's a defensive unit, she's meant to be a shielder, she's not meant to get significant damage, so it's just like, okay, that's just 150% scaling. This scaling here is misleading, because her skill at C0 hits 3 times, and then this passive will also hit 3 times. So the actual amount of like multiplier damage she gets at C0, you basically multiply this times 3, and then divide it by 2 and times that by 3 and add it on top. The simpler way to describe it is that Lan Yan's skill is kind of like Hazo. The difference is Hazo gets like one big damage instance with one big multiplier. Lan Yan's damage is split across a bunch of different hits. Now C1, by the way, basically just doubles the instances of hits from her skill. This just makes her do meaningfully more damage. So I wanted this to be able to like truly mess around with DPS Lan Yan is ultimately all it came down to. As far as her build options, I genuinely think most DPS Lan Yan teams, chances are you should probably still just have her on VV. It takes investment obviously to get crit stats. So this is not the easiest option for DPS Lan Yan. I will show a 4-piece Marechaussee Hunter because, you know, the magic of using Farina is that you can put 4-piece MH and get a bunch of free crit, and yep. VV is not the way to see the biggest damage number from Lan Yan, but the fact that Lan Yan can, you know, buff your Farina, for example, on top of getting her own personal damage is why I think this is kind of like the best overall balance, especially because this means you could use this kind of build on Lan Yan. Like, if you wanted to use Lan Yan with Arlecchino, all you have to do for this kind of build is just blam. She done. She can now be used with Arlecchino. Should you maybe switch to a attack circlet instead of the crit piece that I have on her? Potentially, yes. But her attack is still high enough that, like, for an Arlecchino team, she'd still shield plenty well. That's especially in the context of Bennett and buffing Lan Yan. Like, she doesn't need to have full attack percent stats. So you can get Lan Yan, even in a normal context, to get good damage. That's basically my whole argument for why you should consider actually building crit on her, is because you can actually see decent damage from her at C0. There's different ways to do DPS Lan Yan in different kinds of teams. This team here with Farina, Farazan, C6, of course, and Bennett is probably the way to see the highest damage numbers from her, I assume. You can also just use her as like an on-field reaction driver in like a taser team, for example. So, I don't know, we'll mess around with some different kinds of teams, is my point, so you can see the different kinds of damage we get. Before I explain the point of using Sac Frags on her, I'm just going to show you how this team works in action with a C0 Lan Yan before I activate C1, so you can see the difference C1 makes. Alright, so I like doing Farazan in Bennett buff because it's a bunch of damage. And there's 50k, I don't blame, there's a bunch of damage, and then we do and we can do normal attacks, but what I like to do is I just like to use a quick swap and then I switch to Farazan, get more energy, and you can see we got energy back, and then we can restart rotation. And it's pretty decent. I'll do it one more time just because there's no turning back from activating C1, of course. And I really like this like quick swappy format for DPS Lan Yan. I should have done the reverse order, but whatever. And blam, 55k, blam, and we can do this, do this, do extra Bennett E. I don't think I really had to do that, but yeah, you can see it's pretty consistent amounts of damage. The way to describe this is like it's a kind of a weird way in this team to like DPS Farazan and Lan Yan. Farazan has her, you know, charge attacks that do pretty decent damage if you're standing in Bennett buff, and because you're just kind of doing a quick swap DPS, you're not staying on field with Lan Yan. You can. Her charge attack does this little like chakram throw. Her normal charge attack multiplier is kind of terrible, but even this 53% normal charge attack multiplier can get, you know, like 20k damage with all the buffs going. You can also get additional animal application, additional swirls by doing normal attacks. So it's not like there's no reason to do extra normals and charge attacks, but if you have the ability and reason to on-field someone else, such as like, you know, doing some damage with Farazan to get some more energy generation, whatever, I think it makes sense. I'm going to now activate C1, and basically what we should see with this is a lot more front-loaded damage, because now we're going to be able to get 12 hits from every skill use on Lan Yan. She can get vaporizes if Farina applies Hydro at the right time, right, and we swirl Pyro, so the Pyro damage from Lan Yan can get vaporizes, but it's really hard to see without like pausing and like, slowing down the footage to see when exactly different instances of reactions happen with Lan Yan. Point is, she can get surprisingly big like reaction damage with her passive triggers. Alright, let's do this. I'm trying to switch to Bennett. And blam, blam. Alright, and blam. Yep, that's a lot more front-loaded damage. Yep, you can see it's already almost dead. I think it was only half out last time. And yeah. You get the point. C1 is a pretty significant increase for like quick swap Lan Yan DPS. So in case it wasn't obvious, to explain Sac Frags and why I quite frankly think as far as DPS Lan Yan goes, this is her signature weapon. Can you get bigger numbers on screen doing like Widsith? Yes, and Widsith is a pretty compelling option because, you know, the attack buff is good, the elemental damage bonus is good, and the EM buff is good because she does have her passive, right, where she gets, you know, bonus damage on her skill and burst from EM. But Sac Frags, you can do 2 skills per rotation, and that functionally lets you get double the total, like, value from this. Normally, EM would be a dead stat to build on a, you know, Animo DPS, but this passive makes it not a dead stat. And this reduces her energy needs and functionally doubles her like damage output. So while, you know, you don't see bigger numbers on screen, you see a lot more numbers on screen with Sac Frags DPS Lan Yan. And I think this is really the only true way to DPS her. It lets you do more with her on field for her abilities that actually matter. I'm going to take a second equipping Lan Yan here and see what we get on a 4-piece Marechaussee Hunter build. All right, there we go. I have 2100 attack, so more attack. About 40% more crit damage, the same crit rate functionally after the stacks are built up. You can, of course, put Farazan in this team on 4-piece VV for buffing Farina, and that is probably more damage optimal than using 4-piece Tenacity. I just want to see same exact builds on the supports and everything, but comparing Lan Yan's damage specifically. Alright. And blam. And blam. It's about 60k. It's like the same damage. Very similar damage as far as an invested 4-piece MH versus an invested 4-piece VV build goes. So that's why, in my opinion, you kind of may as well, if you're really dedicated to doing DPS Lan Yan, use 4-piece VV instead, right? Ultimately, I'm just trying to basically say, like, you know, you can use something like 4-piece VV, and she has the potential to be on a DPS build universally, all the time. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to stick to my 4-piece VV build here. I want to show you an EM timepiece versus attack timepiece. Mr. Dorijo, let's see how EM timepiece does. Flap, flap, I did that before. Bennett again, no well. And blam, you can see we're getting the 20k and 51k, right? Like, it's lower, obviously, but it's lower to the degree that I think it's mostly down to, you know, the lower crit damage we have, less than the attack. I do think it's probably slightly worse stat for stat, but it's so close that I don't think it matters. Or alternatively, what your preference is, because having more attack would make her shield tankier, but having more EM could make her swirls bigger, right? So I really like this passive for like giving her flexibility for how you might build her. I'm so extremely tempted, by the way, to just level 90 her right now, but I have like Clorind I want to level 90. I also want to work on Fremine and Gaming. Let's not forget Pyro Traveler, so like I really shouldn't level 90 Lan Yan right now. The temptation is this will make her a better reaction driving unit, and we'll get like the base like 2% damage increase just because of the level differential with enemies. And also I might go over 2000 attack with this current build that I have. Which is the dumbest reason, but my monkey brain likes being at 2k attack at a baseline. It'd probably be fine, right? Like, I yearn for the mines anyways. Screw it, I like this character. Whoop. And now we see, did it put me over 2000 attack? I could have done the math. I did, barely. Lan Yan is only the second animal unit I've ever level 90, by the way. I think I might like her more than Kazuha, to be honest. Right, let's see what the crazy damage upgrade for level 90 is. It's probably not that significant. But blam, that's less damage than I was getting before. I think I probably just didn't have max fanfare on Karina. Blap, and a blap, and a do with that, and blam, and there, see, we're getting more damage now, although I think it's still less than we were getting when I initially didn't have her level 90, so, look, I have no idea. Genshin is weird sometimes with the buffs. I'm gonna try like an Electro-charged team, so she'll get a little bit of buffing from Yelan here, and since this is an Electro-charged team, I think this team definitely makes sense to do an EM timepiece here. Anyways, the general idea, of course, is just to use her as you do in Electro-charged teams a lot, and you just have an Animo driver, right? Because that's how these teams beat. Blam. All right, and as long as I see, yeah, you can still see the enemy's health bar as we did Lan Yan's skill. It still takes a meaningful amount of damage. Is this less damage than the Farina Varzon team? I mean, yeah, go figure. Oh, well, okay. I'll let her get Beybladed. Only I can somehow die on the extremely tanky shield unit. Now, Electro-charge is better in AoE situations, so I'm going to fight the Vishaps here. It's definitely important to keep in mind that Lan Yan is getting much more damage ownership than just her Animo damage, both because of her passive, as always, but always, I can't even speak, but also because of, her ownership of reactions, especially in this kind of a situation. You can, like, a lot of the swirl reactions, or not just swirl, the swirls should trigger electro charges, and then the electro charges using her EM for calculating the damage, right? Not necessarily every single instance of electro charges is, calculated with her damage, but you can see, right? We're doing pretty decent AoE damage, right? And that's with, Fischl and Yelan being single target damage dealers. Oh my god, what in the world, game? Please let me... Okay. I maybe should, after I do 2 skills in Lan Yan, refresh Fischl. I'm not sure. What? Oh, what? I'm so confused. Why were you over there? As always, Electro-charge's weakness is more single target. Do I think you could clear with this team in single target? Probably. At least on my account, I think my official build is invested enough, and my Yelan build has the potential to definitely be good enough. But I think Electro-charge is best saved for content that, it shines in, which is, AoE scenarios in, like, whatever events, like the recent Lantern Red event, or an Abyss, maybe in the future, maybe with, a future standard banner Animo unit. I'm going to take the Farazan team from before to Abyss, but I want to try something else still. I have no idea if this is going to work, but I'm going to try a Yai, Emily, Lan Yan, Bennett team. I've not played with this team at all yet. I just want to try, weird examples of making use of her short field time and quick swappy nature. Because of how Yai's targeting works, I think this team would work slightly differently in AoE versus single target, but we'll see. We can start with Yai, right? And then Electro will hit, just do a normal attack, and then blam. And do this. Alright, do that. Blam. And blam. And then I don't have my Yai burst up, but here I could Yai burst, right? Would be the idea. And yeah, I don't know. I think this is a cool team idea, actually. Oftentimes when I play Emily and Bennett together, you don't really get the freedom to use Emily Burst and Bennett buff because you're like maintaining Bennett buff. Like your Kniech wants a lot of field time, right? So you want to maintain uptime for Kniech. You wouldn't want to waste 3 seconds of Bennett uptime for Emily Burst, but because Lan Yan doesn't require the field time, you can flexibly do that, and I think that's a cool thing. Alright, I want to see what happens in an AoE situation here, because Emily Burst in particular in AoE is kind of disgusting. Don't, okay. And blap, and do that, do this, blam, and do that. I actually should have done Emily Burst first, but it doesn't really matter. And do this. Alright, and then we do this. I think I could have done that a little bit better as far as like the balance of grouping and whatever goes. Alright, you're not back yet, that's fine. Do some swirling. I mean, it's the number of things happening here in AoE is very satisfying. Do this. Alright. I think we are mostly doing a decent job in keeping up everything. But there's a lot of things that need to be kept up here. So I don't know. This is a weird team concept for sure. Blam. And then we can do Yai Burst. Like, I don't know. Look, it's pretty cool, I think. I like this. Oh, you suck me. What? Yeah, this definitely doesn't have enough ER. This build needs more ER when she's solo Animo. Go figure. And blam. I don't know, I think it's really cool that you can do this kind of stuff. I don't know. It's just fun. I like this kind of flexibility with like playing teams in really a different form of conception, right? Because if you're really used to the typical like on field for like 10 seconds after setting up your buffs, this might be a kind of unintuitive team format. But this is the benefit of, you know, building units that don't specifically need to be on-fielded, but have some synergy with, you know, other units in the game to be on-fielded for a short period of time. I don't know. It's an example of a team that makes me really appreciate Genshin's game design, honestly. But admittedly, it is not that much of a DPS Lan Yan team, right? It's just using Lan Yan to do synergistic things. So we'll take the more proper DPS Lan Yan team to the Abyss. Actually, wait, real quick. I want to see what damage we get with Widsith. There's the stats. Slam. Do that, do that, do that. What buff did we get? Oh, the EM buff? That's probably the worst one, but I don't know. I don't know how different they all are. There's, yeah, so we get like 25% more damage, looks like, with Widsith. But, you know, then we don't get the additional skill. So I think it's worse, to be clear, for Lan Yan's damage. It would have the advantage of letting, you know, on-field bars on more, potentially, which maybe you'll like that, right? That's more time to let you get charge attack shots. If you have a different build on Lan Yan than a more supported build like I have, right? See what we get with a different buff. That time we got the damage bonus. And blam! That is worse? Oh, that's interesting. It's possible we had less fanfare or whatever too, to be clear. But I think Sac Frags is quite a bit more fun, so we're sticking to it. I just like being able to jump around all over the place with her. Now the first half of this Abyss cycle, in Chamber 2, this enemy has 70% Anima resistance and 70% Hydra resistance. So it's probably quite bad, you know, for a Farina Farazan Lan Yan team. But I am going to do one run real quick against the chubby hamster, and the reason I want to do that is because I actually recorded a C0 Lan Yan clear with the same team and the same build, and I want to have that as a point of comparison to C1 versus C0, because I know a lot of people are probably only going to have C0 Lan Yan. This is C0 DPS Lan Yan. Now let's see how C1 does. Oh, I don't know if I had Bennett buff. If you do, you have to wait a second sometimes to get Bennett buff. Man, the number of anima numbers that pop up on screen with C1 is so funny. I gotta redo now because I just like got to giggle. It took me 100 and frickin' billion pulls. But the numbers that you see on the screen from this is so... It was worth it. I regret nothing. Slam, 64k. Oh, I love this. I actually love this. Alright, let's do Bennett. I didn't have Bennett buff up. Okay. So I think I had to play around with my rotation slightly in order to get Bennett burst to line up with the fruits. It's so good. Oh, I love it. Right, and I'm gonna try doing Farazan first this time. So I think that might maintain uptime for... Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's what I wanted. So we can do Bennett, do normal attacks. Oh, he ate one. Oh, shoot. Oh, okay. Not the end of the world. Blam. Let's do Bennett. Do Blam. You... Oh, shoot. I don't have my energy. Oh, that's not the end of the world, I suppose. Because we do plenty of damage with C1. I missed... Oh, okay. But anyways, I'm getting a lot faster clears with C1. Because I'm having a lot of fun playing this team, I'm going to do a few more attempts and see how fast of a clear I can get. Oh, okay. It's basically the same time, but that felt really good. Let's move on to the second side, though. So in this chamber, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to abuse Bennett. And I have Bennett C6, which will help me deal with the cryo shields quite a lot. Make sure I get Bennett back. Thankfully, they are going to come to me. There's one. Lap. And we need one more. Blam. Alright. There we go. I don't know why I did that first. Should have done Bennett. I need to heal too. Switch. There we go. 75k. Nice. I think it has lower resistance when it's down. Blam. Do this. We, I think, are perfectly fine. And blam. Blam. Flap. And blam. Oh. Style. Alright. Let's see how fast this gets shredded. Oh, I don't have Bennett buff up. I guess that's not the end of the world while it has a shield. And blap. And, oh, we don't trigger Sac on these shields. Oh, that's really unfortunate. Okay, well, after the shield's down, it's no problem. But, yeah. The 12 hits still happen. You can see the shield goes up a lot. These things shield, by the way, are more tanky than the actual Papilla boss. Oh, I just let myself die. Oh my gosh. That was dumb. And blam. And blam. No problem. Another crit buff. Well. Blam. Might not have actually made sense to use until after, but screw it. We'll see what happens. Oh, okay. Definitely didn't make sense to use. Yeah, I really wish Sac worked against these shields, but I don't know, it's like that would have been dead without even having to think about it if it did work. Right. This. Okay, I've been trying this a few times, and I can't really get the Papilla Shield to break. There might be something I could do. I think what I'm going to try, though, because of the fact that I have, you know, Res Shred from VV and Vars on Animo Res Shred, it might be not that hard to brute force this. We're going to go stand on the edge because we're scared. We're going to do this. I don't know. Why not? I want to do it. It's fine. I just get to play more Dia. No, I was so close to killing it before I got a second shield. No. I think I just bungled my rotation a little bit. I would have been fine. Okay. I've been retrying this for way too long, so I'm gonna say that's a win. It's obviously not the ideal team for the Papilla. But it's also not unusable, okay? It's not unusable. Wow. And I used a D on the first side, okay? I'm glad I got one instance of the Papilla at least where it showed I could have killed it without it getting a second shield up. It was very close though. Brute forcing it is a little bit tricky, but it is possible sometimes. So anyways, all in all, DPS Lan Yan, I had to re-record this video because, yeah, my original experimentation video just, like, was playing around with some more memey things like Thundering Fury and whatever. I might turn that into maybe a members-only video or something in the future. I don't know. I really like Lan Yan in this DPS form, so I'm going to leave her on this build that I have, which is literally just my Chaska's build. So yeah, I like Lan Yan a heck of a lot. Like, even though it took me 150 flippin' wishes to get this character with her C1, which is where I think her damage contribution starts to, like, feel much more noticeable. She's definitely not impossible to DPS without C1. If you're going to take a risk like I did, just know what you're risking with your pity with future characters, right? Like, 4 stars are really, really awful to acquire. I think Chlorine is a more compelling character than many people give her credit for. I'm going to have a video coming out with her soon, so you can subscribe for that, or whatever other videos like this one, I don't know. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed DPSing Lan Yan. I'm going to play with her like this in the future. Mihoyo keeps on making 4 stars I really, really like. And I usually like them more than 5 stars, which sucks because, you know, I can't directly wish for them without wishing on 5 stars. Oh well. The long answer... Wait, no, the short answer...